Well, it's a couple minutes after 1. I think I'm going to go ahead and get going. And it looks like we have a small group today. So by all means, keep your videos on. And if you have any questions, just hit unmute and feel free to ask me. But if you have attended any of these before, I usually did an interview, but today's going to be a little different. I'm just going to kind of go over the We Build Northwest Indiana website, which talks about construction careers. And I'm going to go over mostly the trade careers because that's where the bulk of the jobs exist, or job opportunities, I should say. And then I'm also going to cover college career paths too. So probably won't be as long as the trade section, but there is a college career path, to kind of get into the management end of the construction industry. So I'll go over that as well. So welcome. I appreciate you guys joining in today. My name is Kevin Comerford. I'm the Director of Professional Development at the Construction Advancement Foundation of Northwest Indiana. If you're unfamiliar with our organization, we are a union contractor trade association. We have over 500 contractor members that work throughout Northwest Indiana. I would say primarily our contractors are located in Lake Porter and LaPorte counties, but to a lesser extent, we do have some contractors down south in the southern counties that we cover, which are Newton, Jasper, Stark, and Pulaski. A big part of what we do is help our contractors. We do a lot of educational training for them, management training, safety training, things like that. That's really it about us. I just want to thank the Center of Workforce Innovations. They're the group that kind of runs the local work ones, and so they do a lot of workforce development in Northwest Indiana. And without their help, none of this would be possible. So I just want to say thank you to them. And so I think we'll go ahead and begin the presentation. Can everybody see my my screen? I got the construction and trades virtual series up here. Good. Okay, so this is what I'm going to talk about today, but before I get into that, let me kind of just introduce, my background and how I got to where I'm at. So I graduated from Valparaiso High School a long time ago, back in 1994. I was a building trade student, but when I got out, I really wasn't sure what I wanted to do. The new Menards in Valpo, it was new at the time, just opened, so I took a job there right out of high school. I did enroll into college for 1 semester, but I just, I wasn't ready and I didn't really know what I wanted to do anyway. So I kind of just floundered for about, I don't know, till I was about 22, just working, retail. After Menards, I did a little non-union construction work because I had that building trades experience in high school. So I was doing a little framing, doing some concrete work, remodeling, and it was about 22, 23, I decided to go back to college. And so I went to Purdue University Northwest. At the time, it was called Purdue University North Central, which is located over in Westville. I'm sure you guys are familiar with it. And I went to go get a business degree. I figured, every company that I ever worked for is a business, so you get a business degree, it's pretty versatile. I could probably work anywhere. So as I was going through my program, and I'm glad I waited and, took 4 gap years or 5 gap years after high school, but, I wasn't ready right after high school. So went through college. I was much more interested, got better grades. I actually made the dean's list every year just because, now I'm paying for it. And, when you pay for it yourself, you tend to get a little more interested in it. So did pretty good. And then my senior year, right before my senior year, I decided to get an internship. And for those of you going to college, I would highly recommend that you do internships or apply for internship programs because it truly opens doors and it really changed my world. So my internship is actually for the company that I'm working at right now, which is Construction Advancement Foundation. And they just needed some people to help market like I said, I was a business major, so they needed people to help market their programs, but I had that construction background. So I think that kind of helped me get the intern position. And so I worked for them for a year. And then once I graduated with my bachelor's degree, I met a lot of connections at the Construction Advancement Foundation that was you know, as far as contractors are concerned. And so I ended up getting hired by a company straight out of my internship called Superior Construction. And they're a large contractor that works here locally. They're out of Portage, Indiana. They just moved to Portage a few years ago, but prior to that, they were Gary. But they've been around since like the 1920s or something like that. So it's like a third generation, fourth generation company now. And we primarily built bridges, which was, I love the work, but we also did a lot of industrial. So my first 2 years with the company, I was mostly on bridge jobs as a project engineer. And for those of you not familiar with a project engineer, I was kind of like the go-between between the project manager, who kind of mostly worked out of the office and handled the budget and the bidding and all that, and then the field superintendent, who was in charge of the project out in the field. So I was kind of like the go-in-between. I would do daily reports, take pictures, do a lot of documentation. Since we did bridges, most of those are state jobs, so I'd work with the state, make sure our quantities of materials were right, and make sure that we got paid as we were going through the job. So it was a fun job. I loved working on the bridge work. I loved being outside. Every day was a little bit different. And then we won a big project out at the BP Amoco refinery in Whiting, Indiana. Back in about 2005, 2006, BP Amoco decided to make one of their biggest investments ever. And I think at the time it was their biggest investment ever in the United States. And that was to basically revitalize the refinery in Whiting, because it was all old technology. It was like I forget the price tag on it, but I think at the time it was like $4 billion or $4.5 billion. And so that they sent me out there. And they kind of gave me a special job managing their equipment, and it was okay. I mean, it wasn't like what I was used to out on the construction job. So I worked there for about 3 years, and I made a lot of money because there was a lot of overtime out there because there was so much work. But then, that job was coming to an end, and I just wasn't sure what to do. And the Construction Advancement Foundation, who I did my internship with, actually gave me a call because they were looking for somebody to run their education and professional development. So my internship kind of went full circle. So that's kind of why I recommend doing internships, because it really does open doors. So if you have any questions as we go through this, just put it in the chat box. And I'm already getting some questions, and I'll get to those as I go through the program. So let me kind of get into what we're going to talk about today, and that is this website that I created with the help of the apprenticeship coordinators, and it's called We Build Northwest Indiana. The URL is www.webuildnwi.com, and I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing this, and I'm going to pull up the actual website. Give me 1 second here. So can everybody see that? Can I get it out of the head? Okay, so this is the homepage of the website. One of the cool things about this website is I took most of the pictures. I think I maybe took all the pictures. I know I took that one and that one. So these are all trades workers from Northwest Indiana working on projects in Northwest Indiana. And the site is really easy to navigate. You have only these 5 tabs. You have Why Construction, and that is some information on why you might want to consider a career in the construction industry. And then you have this button right here called the Trade Careers, and that is where the bulk of the job opportunities exist in the construction industry. And then Managerial Careers, that's kind of that college career path I was talking about earlier. And then I'm not really going to get too much into families or advisors. That's kind of more for teachers, but it kind of is just a rehash of the information that's in the Why Construction tab. And then I'll kind of cover maybe 1 or 2 things in the news and resources, because there's some helpful things in there that could help you get through an apprenticeship program, or I'll get to it and I'll show you what I'm talking about. But if you have joined any of our interviews prior to this year, I talked to apprenticeship coordinators, and they all kind of say the same thing of what they're looking for. And if you scroll to the bottom of this page, these 3 bullet points are kind of consolidate everything that we talked about this year to with those interviews. they all, I think every apprenticeship coordinator, had these things to say. They're looking for somebody with a strong work ethic. They're looking for somebody with a positive attitude. They said, a lot of the trade people, apprenticeship coordinators, they say, we could train pretty much, you don't even have to know what you're doing, but as long as you have a positive attitude, we could train you. And then they're looking for people who are dependable. And what that means is, a lot of the jobs, they start at 7 in the morning, maybe 6 in the morning. Sometimes they need somebody to be there on time and ready to work when the job starts. So, and they need them to show up every day, nobody calling off. So that's kind of the people that they're looking for. And it's not really a high bar, but you'd be surprised at how many people, don't have a strong work ethic, have a, bad attitude, or, just are irresponsible. But I mean, it's not a high bar, but if you could meet, these 3 requirements, you could have a very successful career in the construction trades. But I'm not going to kind of read through this verbatim, and there's videos throughout the site. So I encourage you, to explore this on your own time, and you could watch some of the videos. You might pick up a couple bits of information from there as well. But I'm just going to kind of get right into it and click on this Why Construction tab. Like I said, this is why you might want to consider a career in the construction industry. So real quick, this picture right here is actually the first job I was ever on. So that's why I put it on the first tab here, because it was the first job I was ever on. This was a bridge job that took place in Michigan City, Indiana. Now this bridge was actually shut down all the way because back in the early 2000s, there was a bridge collapse in Minnesota on a major thoroughway. And at that point, the state of Indiana decided to, go through all their bridges and see which ones were in bad shape. And this was one of the worst. So they completely shut down the bridge and they made it a priority to open up. And it was my first bridge job. So you can kind of see here just all the different trades working together. I think there's 4 different trades here working. So you got, this guy operating this, it's called a bidwell paving machine. He's an operating engineer. This gentleman right here, this is Billy. He is a laborer, local 41 out of, which is out of Lake County. And then over here, standing back here, you got some cement finishers. And actually this guy pouring the concrete that works for Smith Ready Mix is a teamster. So, I mean, you actually got 4 different construction trades, just in this video, or in this picture. But if you look closer, you can see that there's wood forms right here that are, holding the concrete, forming the concrete. Carpenters came in and put those in. You could see the reinforcing steel inside the concrete. That was put in by iron workers. So they had already come to the job. And then you also have some forming over here that the carpenters did. And heck, if you really even want to break it down, you got this electrical line back here. This could have been done. It was probably done by NIPSCO linemen, but could have been done by electricians, contractors. But you can kind of get a sense how, all these trades work together to build a project. So just thought that was cool. So why construction? First thing I want to talk about is job opportunities. The Bureau of Labor Statistics, and I'm going to read this, they expect our industry to grow 4%, and that's from 2019 to 2029. Now, I don't know when they put this out if they expected a pandemic, but our industry, at least here in Northwest Indiana, was a little bit slow last year. I think our total working man hours dropped about 20 to 25%. The industrial sector got hit a little bit harder than commercial and heavy highway, but still, I mean, we're seeing, and I'll kind of talk about some of the upcoming projects, but in the foreseeable future, there's a couple exciting projects here in Northwest Indiana that are going to employ a lot of people. So I'll talk about that here in a second. But another thing is, you might have heard this, especially if you keep your ear to the ground as far as political news, but the U.S. is considering a huge infrastructure investment program. And the reason that is needed is because a lot of our infrastructure, our roads and our bridges and underground water lines, a lot of that was built in the 50s, 50s and 60s during, it all kind of started after World War II when we we're in war with Germany. We went over there, we saw how awesome their Autobahn system is, which is their highway system. And so we kind of took what we learned that they did over there and brought it back here. We created the interstate highway system under the Eisenhower administration. And so a lot of our infrastructure is still like kind of lingering from that time. So a lot of the bridges and, underground water lines and things like that, sanitary sewers, it's kind of coming to the end of its useful life. And a lot of it's been replaced too, but there's still a lot of it out there that needs to be replaced. So that's why you keep hearing about infrastructure in the news, and, they want to pass some kind of legislation to, and that would be good for the construction industry because, a lot of those are construction jobs, and it's going to go directly to benefit, workers working in the professional building trades. Another thing about job opportunities is once you go through an apprenticeship program, and I'll kind of talk a little bit about that structure here in a little bit, you get your journey person's card. So what that means is, you're basically proficient in your trade. And once you get that card, you have the opportunity, like if you're an electrician, you got skills that are transferable anywhere. I've had friends that worked all over the country. And I've even had some that worked overseas. I had a friend who was an electrician who worked in Saudi Arabia when they were building a oil refinery out there. And I think he was making like $250,000 a year to go out there. Now he was living in the desert and probably didn't have much of a life for those 2 years, but when he came back, he was he had a lot of money. He bought a house cash and that's what you could do, there's job opportunities are endless if you're willing to travel and you have the ability to. But even around here, the job opportunities are great. I was talking about some of the exciting projects coming up. I don't know if you know about this, but the federal government just gave Northwest Indiana, like last year, a lot of money to build a new South Shore rail extension going from Hammond to Dyer, Indiana. And, that's like $4 billion. And I don't even know if you can comprehend how much money that is, but that's going to create a lot of jobs. There's a lot of bridges that go into that, a lot of electrical work because it's an electrical rail line. They're also double tracking the existing track. So there's a lot of, job opportunities along that because they're going to put a whole new track all the way in from Michigan City to Chicago. So not only that, there's a lot of renewable energy, interest in renewable energy. They're starting to shut down all the power plants just because they're burning coal, and they're going to more cleaner technologies and greener technologies. So right where NIPSCO is down in Wheatfield, they're putting in a solar field that is supposed to be, I forget how many acres it was, but it was like 300 acres or something like that. It's called the Dunn. You could probably Google it. It's called the Dunbridge Solar Field. And they're actually looking for help right now. So if anybody's looking for some summer work, definitely go to the Electricians Local 531. They're taking applications right now. I think they said they're hiring like 250, summer help workers. And I was talking to their business agent over there, and he was saying that, they're hiring summer help, but they're going to also evaluate the people who are working out there. And if they got somebody who has a great attitude and can show up on time and they're dependable, then they're going to look to bring them into the apprenticeship program for the electricians. So if any of you are interested in the electricians, that's definitely an opportunity you might want to explore. So like I said, Google Dunsbridge solar farm, or go to the Electricians Local 531. They're based out of LaPorte. Go to their website, and I think they have information. You might have to browse through the website to find it, but it's on their website. I've seen it there before. So that's just kind of, some of the job opportunities. Another great aspect of getting into the construction trades is the training. Now I'm talking mostly about, the trade careers. All the different trade careers, and I think there's 20 of them. I know there's 20 of them. They all offer what they call as an apprenticeship program. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with that term, but basically it's a program where, the way I like to think of it is, about 20% of the time you're in school learning how to do work that trade does, and the rest of the time you're out working in the field and earning a living. And so you're earning a paycheck, you're working under people who already know how to do that trade. So they're teaching you as you go through the program. And as you move through the program, your wages steadily increase until you top out. And when I say top out, you're considered a journey person. And then the average wage right now, or wage package for a journey person, is like $65 an hour. So, I mean, it's really good money. Now, that's your total wage package. That includes your benefits and your health and welfare package as well. And I'll kind of talk about that here in a second as well. So, but again, if you apply and you get in, the training's free. And, you know, your training doesn't stop there. I think, you know, if you're in the trade, you're constantly learning because you're constantly on new jobs. You're constantly around different people and different projects. So you're doing different things all the time. Or you can be. I mean, there's some people that specialize, like carpenters do scaffolding work. So, I mean, if you're a scaffold builder, that's all you're going to do. They get a lot of money and they, you know, work a lot of overtime, but it's not really very diverse in what they do. I mean, they just do scaffolding. But other companies, I mean, if you're a carpenter for, like, say, Larson Danielson or Gary Up Construction or somebody like that, you know, one day you might be laying forms, another day you might be building walls. I mean, yeah, there's just endless opportunities of what you could do in the trade. So, and then, you know, once you get done with the apprenticeship program, if you ever want to advance your skills, you could always go back to the training center. They got trainers there all the time, and you could learn how to do other things. Like, say you did get into scaffolding right away as a carpenter, and you want to now branch out and go into a general contractor to learn how to form or learn how to frame walls, and you've been rusty because you haven't done it for a few years, you could always go back to the training center and hone your skills. So that's a resource that's always going to be available to you. I got a couple questions, so I'm going to kind of look at them. So if you look in the chat function, Erin, who works for the Center of Workforce Innovations, she put a link into to that application for the IBEW, the Dunsbridge Solar Project that I was talking about. So check that out if you're interested. It's in the chat. Another thing, I mean, it's a debt-free education. Once you get accepted, and I should say this, it's not really easy to get in. 2 years ago, I took the ironworker test. And they gave you a general assessment test, and if you pass that, then you get an interview. So I think there was like close to, it was a little bit under 200. It was like between I think it was like 160 some people applied that year, and they only take applications once a year. So only 30 people got in. So what is that? 30 divided by 165, you know, that is only 18% of the people who applied got in, and that was just the ironworkers. So you could probably say that's about average across the trade. So basically 1 of 5 people who ever apply basically get in. So, I mean, it's really competitive, and they're really looking for the best people. I mean, they don't want to hire somebody who they don't think is going to work out or has a bad attitude, or, you know, they want to try to get the best people that they can get. So that's why it's very competitive. That's why they're looking for the best people, because they need the best and brightest on their jobs. But once you get in, you know, it's a free education. You're going, like I said, you're going to school about 20% of the time. The rest of the time, you're working out in the field. And like that whole time you're going through the apprenticeship program, you're earning a wage. So, and like I said, the education is completely debt-free. I think some of the apprenticeship programs make you pay for your books, which is just a small price to pay. I mean, my daughter is, you know, graduating from Valpo this year, and she's 18 years old, and I'm looking at $26,000 a year for her college tuition, and that includes room and board and everything. And that's for IUPUI down in Indianapolis. So, so I mean, college is expensive, and here's a way to, you know, kind of get into a middle-class job without, you know, with bypassing the college route. But like I said, it's not easy to get in. They're looking for the right person. And I'll kind of give you some advice on how to, you know, maybe improve your chances of getting in once we get into the trade careers. Wages, I don't really like talking about wages because I think a lot of people get into the construction industry strictly for the wages. But like I said, it pays like $65 an hour on average, depending on what trade. Some trades are more, some trades are a little bit less, but on average it's 65. If you're working full time, you know, that's, you know, anywhere from $70,000 to $90,000 a year. which is really good money. Oh, so I was actually wrong. The average wage package is right here. It's $66 an hour. So I was off by $1. But if you're a superintendent, foreman, you could earn up to 6 figures a year. When I was out at BP, I worked with a labor general foreman, and he was out there working about six tens a day or a week. And what that means is 6 days a week, 10 hours a day. And he brought home over $150,000 in 1 year, which is, I mean, unheard of. I've never made that kind of money, but he didn't really have a life outside of work. But, he did that for like 3 years. He paid for 3 of his kids to go to school, cash. So there's opportunities, especially when there's big projects like that, to make a lot of money. So, and then I also want to talk a little bit about the benefits. I don't know how many of you guys pay for your own healthcare, but it seems like every year the costs keep going up. Whether that's dental or eye doctor or prescription drug prices, or just even a general doctor's visit. It just seems like the prices keep going up. All the trades offer some form of health and welfare insurance, and that is 100% paid for by the contractor. It is negotiated with the union side, with the contractors. So the contractors and laborers come together, and it's like they come up with a collective bargaining agreement where they, it's kind of like the NFL Players Association and the NFL owners. I mean, it's kind of the same thing. You got the contractors and you got the unions. They come together and they negotiate wage packages, insurance. So by virtue of that collective bargaining agreement, all of the benefit packages, all the premiums are paid for by the contractor. So there's no out-of-pocket cost for the worker, which is really, really, I mean, that's a really great benefit. When I was working before I got into the construction industry, I used to have to pay like my premium. When I was working for Menards, I had insurance. My premium was coming out of my pocket. So I was making like, it wasn't much. It was like $600 every 2 weeks. And then they would take like $200 out of my check just to pay for my insurance too. And then after you paid for, taxes and everything, I think I was bringing home like $300 every other week, which was nothing. It was barely surviving. But that's a huge benefit when the contractor actually pays all the health and welfare benefits. And then all of them have a retirement package as well. They're all in what they called is a multi-employer pension fund. So it's basically a fund where it's in the name, multi-employer. So multi-employers all contribute to the same fund. So that allows a worker to work for different companies and still be part of the same pension system. And that's important because usually if you're working for a company and you leave that company, your pension just sits there and you have to wait until you're retired to take it, or you have to roll it over. With this, you could work from company to company to company. It's designed that way so your pension stays in one place. And then when you retire, you can pull from your pension. My buddy, Bob Anadel, he was a electrician, recently retired. He's in his early 70s now. He's making like $6,000 a month in his pension, retired. So he put in a lot of years and a lot of hours, throughout his lifetime to get that. But he's kind of set now in his retirement. He doesn't have to really worry about too much. Plus, he still gets his health and welfare benefits through the union as well. So that's why you might want to consider a career in the construction industry. A lot of benefits there. And now I'm going to kind of talk a little bit about these trade careers because that's where the bulk of the jobs exist. So let me just kind of go over the minimum qualifications, which are right over here in the right-hand bar. You must be 18 years old to get into an apprenticeship program. You can apply when you're 17, but they'll usually tell you when they start classes, and everybody starts class usually in the late spring, early summer. So as long as you're 18 by the first day of class, you're good to go to, you can apply when you're 18. You must have a valid driver's license and reliable transportation. These two kind of go hand in hand. If you don't have reliable transportation or a valid driver's license, you're going to have trouble getting from job site to job site because the construction industry is a little bit different. It's not like you're going to go to you know, the same place every day. You got to go where the job is. So one day you might be working, like, for instance, when I worked for Superior, you know, my first bridge job was in Michigan City. My second bridge job was over in Gary. And then I worked out at the Whiting refinery. So I had to go out to Whiting, Indiana. So had to be able to get to the job and get there on time. And that's why reliable transportation and a valid driver's license is so crucial. You must have a high school diploma or equivalent. I guess equivalent means your GED. I think this is pretty standard for any professional career once you finish high school. Must be in good physical shape. You know, the construction trades, you know, it pays well. It seems like there's a lot of benefits, but, you know, there's a downside too. It's not easy work. I mean, a lot of times you're going to be, you know, climbing, you know, carrying heavy materials. You know, you're going to be crouched in tight spaces. You're going to be working in crazy weather. You know, sometimes you might be working in the steel mill. Say you're a bricklayer, you're going to be working inside the blast furnace. And when it's, you know, 100 degrees out, you know, maybe even over that with the heat index, you know, and you're working next to a blast furnace, it's no fun. You know, it's probably 140 degrees in there while you're working. So, and then you got the extreme opposite of that. You know, during sometimes our winters, sometimes we get, you know, below 0 degree weather, and, you know, a water main breaks, and, you know, the city calls a contractor to come out there to fix the water main, you know, so you're going to be out there working around freezing cold water when it's freezing cold outside. So, you know, it's not fun all the time. But I mean, the rewards are great. So what is an apprenticeship program? I guess I kind of explained it, but it's basically, like I said, you're kind of going through school, but you're only learning the basics of what that trade needs to know. You're not learning like electives or anything like that. It's just strictly what you need to know in that trade. For example, if you're in the electricians, you're going to learn about DC theory. You're going to learn about transformer theory, AC theory. You're going to learn about circuitry. You know, this is what you're learning in school. You're not going to have to, you know, take an elective on like health and nutrition or, you know, a history class. Although I think they'll make you take a labor history class. But I mean, for the most part, your training all has to do with what you're doing on the job. So it kind of makes it nice. The apprenticeship programs range anywhere from 3 to 5 years. I would say 4 or 5 years is average, but I think the laborers have a 3-year program, and I think the Teamsters have a 3-year program. I think everything else is 4 or 5 year programs, and I'll show you how to find that information here in a second. Kind of talked about, you know, the working conditions. You know, it's not easy. It's not for everybody. And it could be potentially dangerous. I mean, you're working at, you know, if you're afraid of heights, it's probably not for you. But contractors in Northwest Indiana have an excellent safety record. Matter of fact, in 2019, there was a study done that Northwest Indiana has 15 times fewer accident rate than the national rate. So our contractors and our owners that we work for along the industrial lakefront, you know, the U.S. Steel, Whiting Refinery, ArcelorMittal, which is now Cleveland Cliffs, you know, they all push, you know, safety, number one. They don't want to see anybody get hurt. Contractors don't want to see anybody get hurt. So everybody, as they go through the apprenticeship program, they're going to go through OSHA training. And then when you're on the job, I mean, they're pretty sticklers about safety. You're constantly wearing your safety vest, your hard hat. And, you know, I mean, they just don't take any chances because, you know, if a contractor hurts somebody, their insurance rates could put them out of business. Lawsuits could put them out of business. So that's why it's so important to be safe. So you don't really hear about too many injuries anymore. Back when I was younger, and even in my dad's time, you know, I mean, I think injuries were kind of expected, you know, but today that's not the case anymore. I mean, they do whatever they can to limit accidents. So it's a really good industry, and it's a safe industry compared to what it used to be. So that's kind of the minimum qualifications and a little bit about the apprenticeship program. So right over here is the different trade careers that exist. Like I said, there are 20 different careers, and I'm not going to go through all of them, but I might pick one. And there was a question about the electrician. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the electricians here and show you how the screen works. So if you look to the right, this is kind of the basic information about the apprenticeship program. It tells how long the program is. This one is a 5-year program. So you're going through the apprenticeship program for 5 years. And the way it works is you start off at like a percentage of the wage that a journey person would make. So say a journey person would make $50 an hour in the electricians. I think that's a little high. I think they make more around 40. So let's say 40. They might start off their first year at only 20%. So and I think it would be more than that because I don't think they could pay below minimum wage, but I think they start off about $15 an hour. But as you work through the program and you get your in-class training in and you get your on-the-job training requirements in, your wages go up incrementally as you go throughout the program. So by the time you finish your 5-year program, you're at that $40 hour rate. And then plus you get the full benefits too from the day one when you start the apprenticeship program. So here's where, Ivy Tech degree. I don't know if you know this, but there's 9 different apprenticeship programs that offer an associate's degree from Ivy Tech upon completion of their apprenticeship program. So they have had their programs vetted through Ivy Tech. There's a couple Ivy Tech classes that you need to take through that apprenticeship program. I think there's like I said earlier, a labor history class. There's usually like a business writing class and some math classes that I think you need to take. And if you complete all that through, you'll get that associate's degree from Ivy Tech. And this just took place last year. Now, Purdue University Northwest is now accepting those associate degrees, and they're offering 48 credit hours toward a bachelor's degree in organizational leadership and supervision and project leadership. So now that's on your own to do, but if you go through the apprenticeship program, get your Ivy Tech degree, associate's degree, do another 2 years on your own time and go through the Purdue program and get your bachelor's degree. Now you have a journey person's, you got an associate's degree, and you got a bachelor's degree. I'm going to venture to say that as long as you have good attitude, great work ethic, and you're responsible, I don't think you're ever going to be unemployed with those credentials. So that might be something you might want to think about if you go through an apprenticeship program that offers the Ivy Tech degree, is taking that towards, a step further and getting that bachelor's degree. Here's the apprenticeship opportunities for the electricians. There's actually 2 different opportunities here in Northwest Indiana. You got the Lake County Electrical Training Center, which is located in Maryville, Indiana. For those of you who have gone down I-65 between like 61st Avenue and US 30, there's a big windmill right off of I-65. That is the Electricians Training Center. They take applications online, so you can apply at any time. There is an application fee of $40, so be wary of that, or just be aware of that, I should say. And then there's also an apprenticeship training center in LaPorte County. Now, they're both electricians. They both do the exact same thing. They just cover different territories, and they overlap too. So I know people who are in 531 that work in Lake County, and I know people who are in 697 out of Lake County and who work over in LaPorte County. So they overlap. It's not really a big deal, but I mean, just it's the way it was set up from a long time ago. There's 2 different apprenticeship training centers. So there's information on how to apply there. And that link that Aaron put in the chat feature, it's also here under the electricians. Here's a direct link to that solar project help. So if you're interested in applying, you could go to this electricians tab and click this link right here. Now, Michigan City or the LaPorte County electricians, they take applications from 8:30 to 4:30 every day. So what I would recommend you do, and I put this information right here for this purpose, is to call them first, because if they change the way they take applications and they didn't convey it to me, this information on the website is probably wrong. However, we kind of went through this with the apprenticeship coordinators late last year, so I think everything's right now. But if they do change it, it could be wrong. So I would definitely call first and ask about how do you apply, and whatever questions you might have. So the body of this page just kind of talks about what an electrician is, what they do, what they work on, what kind of environments they work in. And you actually learn 2 different apprenticeship programs while taking this. And you could specialize in the inside, which the inside wireman is your standard electrician. They're the ones that work on, wiring commercial buildings, wiring industrial facilities, working on transformers. I mean, it's your standard electrician. And then they have the installer technician, which is like your low voltage and networking. So running computers, you know, Cat6 cable, RG6, fire alarm systems, audio, video, things like that. So they'll specialize in that. And I think there's a little bit lower wage for the installer technician, but it's definitely cleaner work. You know, you're typically not working in an industrial environment out in the mill or something. So that might be attractive to you if you're, you know, looking for something a little more clean, but I think it does pay a little bit less. And then I have how you can prepare. Now I got this straight from the apprenticeship coordinator's mouth of what they like to see when an applicant applies. Now, by no means is this an all-inclusive list, or you don't even need to have all these. They just, the more that you have, the better your application looks. Let's just put it that way. But they want to see, and this one's probably a little more stringent than some of the other trades, but they want to see that you have algebra, algebra 2, geometry, trigonometry. They'd like to see chemistry, physics, technical writing, economics, business management, computer sciences. You're like, why would they want technical writing? Well, as an electrician, you're going to have to be, you're going to be dealing with customers, especially if you're in like a foreman position. You might have to write emails. So that's why technical writing could be important. Economics, why is that? Or business management, why is that important? Well, they encourage their electricians to start their own companies. And so, you know, that's why, you know, learning about economics and business management could be important. Chemistry, you know, you're working in refineries. The whole refinery system's based off of chemistry. You got pressure vessels and heat and temperature and oil, and to understand, you know, basic chemistry will really help you out in working in those types of environments. And then computer sciences, you know, the trades are really starting to become more technically savvy than they have in the past. I mean, a lot of the programs that they're working with are like BIM, building information modeling. And so, I mean, there's a lot more computer and technology than there used to be in the industry. And that's only going to increase as we move forward in the future. But that's just the electricians. Like I said, you could click on any of these. And like, for example, here's the ironworkers, you know, same information, tells what an ironworker does, how long the apprenticeship program, whether or not they're eligible for that Ivy Tech degree, which this one is, where to apply, when they take applications. And, you know, this one even has application requirements. But I mean, here's the sheet metal workers. You could click on that. You know, if you're interested in the Boilermakers, you could click on that and it'll, you know, tell all about their program. So I don't have time to go through each and every one, but definitely, you know, click through these and kind of read through them and, you know, watch YouTube videos. You know, there's a lot. Apprenticeship program. I encourage you to watch those, especially before you apply, because I guarantee that they're going to ask you in an interview when you go to apply for that trade, hey, why do you want to be an electrician, or why do you want to be an iron worker? You know, you should have a pretty good answer, and, you know, you could probably, you know, you could probably learn why you want to be in that trade, you know, by watching a lot of videos and doing some research before you go into that interview. So, so that's basically the trade careers. And then there's managerial careers, and I won't spend too much time on this, but as I said, there's a way to get directly into the construction industry through the college career path without going through a trade. And the typical path that I see where the most of the jobs exist are in project management. Project management is basically, they're the people that bid the project. They work with estimators and other team members to actually put a bid together for the project. So, so the way a project work is, you know, an owner wants to build, let's say they want to build a McDonald's. So they'll go to an architect, they'll come up with plans, and then they'll put it out for bid. Now the contractor will look at that plans and they'll estimate, you know, the labor that goes into it, the materials that go into it, and then they'll put in some profit margins in there, and then they'll submit their bid to the owner. And then the owner will look at all the different bids, and then they'll decide who they want to, you know, do the project with. Sometimes it's the low bidder, and usually when they're doing a public work project, it has to be the low bidder. But usually in the private industry, I mean, there's some other factors that might cause somebody in the private industry to select a certain contract over another one, even though they might be a higher bid. You know, they might have a better safety plan. They might have, they might like the way that they're doing everything as far as, you know, putting the plan together via BIM or something like that, which is Building Information Modeling, which is a computer technology program. So there's all, well, so I kind of lost my train of thought. So I was talking about project managers. They usually go to a program that specializes in construction management. I know Purdue has a pretty good construction management program. They got one here locally at the Hammond campus, but they also got a construction management program down at the Lafayette campus as well. And it's highly touted by our contractors. I think 9 out of 10 contractors that I talk to in this area, or project managers that I talk to in this area, have gone to Purdue. Project engineers, that's kind of like an entry-level project manager, or usually when you get out of college, they start you off as a project engineer just to kind of learn the ropes, and then you kind of work your way into project management. So that's what I started off, even though I had a business degree. They started me off as a project engineer. And I was actually working my way into project management before I came to the CAF. So safety, that's another key area in the construction industry that has a lot of job opportunities. A lot of the safety personnel are actually people who have been through the trades. And I think contractors like hiring people who have been through the trades because they actually have real life experience of working on the job. But usually those safety managers come to our organization, the Construction Advancement Foundation, or they go back to Purdue and get like some kind of safety credentials. Or I think Indiana State University down in Terre Haute has a big safety program. That's another way to get into the construction industry, is through the safety end of things. And so what the safety manager does is they put in site safety plans. So if somebody's building a hospital or contractors building a hospital, they're going to lay out the project so they have all the proper fall protection. Everybody, you know, there's guardrails if they're working near wall edges, and you know, they're making sure everybody has hard hats and safety glasses, and they just put a safety plan together for the job site, and then they monitor the safety as the project progresses. So a lot of good money into that as well. A lot of people come up through the trades and get these jobs too. So by no means do you have to go to college and get these jobs. Although I think that's the primary career path, is the college career path. But I have seen people who've gone through the trades, got that Purdue degree, and then got into project management as well. So there's a couple different ways to get into the management. And then there's business support careers too. This is not really related to construction. It's more like accounting jobs. I mean, these are all, contractors are businesses, so they all have accountants, they all have human resource departments. So there's other ways to get in the construction industry without actually doing construction work, and business support careers are some of those positions. I'm not going to go into families and advisors. Like I said, that's kind of more for like teachers and counselors. But it's just, like I said, a rehash of why you might want to choose a career in the construction industry. The last tab that I have here is news and resources. Couple things I want to go by is interview tips. Definitely read this before going to an interview. And I don't care if this is for the construction industry or if you're, you know, going to apply at, you know, an attorney's office or whatever you want to do. You know, I think these are good tips for any interview process. You know, be punctual, you know, always show up early. I always say, you know, be out in the parking lot at least 10 minutes before your interview. I would even walk into the facility and look around and, you know, look around, see what's on their walls, see what kind of pictures they have, see what kind of displays that they have. Because all the apprenticeship training centers have, you know, like things that iron workers have done and pictures